Hey guys, I just sort of throw this quickly out again about the election of Mamdani in New York. There's a lot of column inches being written about him and why he got elected and everything else, and I actually think that a lot of people are missing the broader um, pattern that's emerging across most of the West, which is about basically the evisceration of the middle. Um, Mamdani, you can sit there and talk about, how migrants voted for him and, Islam and everything else, whatever. Okay. But I actually think that the bigger story in there is basically the emergence of a left wing voting bloc of what used to be middle class younger people, particularly in the cities. And that really makes sense when you think about it, because you're now coming out the back end of basically 20, 25 years of the wokeification of our education system. And the major cities have basically been attracting these people after education for that entire time. They have, these younger people have come out of education. They've done everything the system's told them to do. Go to university, get a degree, do the right thing, etc., etc. And they've come out into a broken political economy that's just completely unable to provide for them. You're now seeing kids, that are coming out that have got a PhD and are earning £30,000 a year. I mean, if you look in the UK alone now, the average graduate starting salary is 30,000, and the national minimum wage is about 22. And yet people seem surprised that there's now this reaction where a lot of people are going, well, maybe communism or maybe socialism, as they like to prefer to call it, is better than what we've currently got. What you're seeing is basically a complete failure of capitalism to provide the basics of what people need and want in order to have a nice life. Let's be honest. Ever since the GFC and everything that's gone on since then, people have struggled. If you didn't go and buy a house, at least when I did, and that was going back 15 years ago or something. Nowadays, you're trying to buy a house, your salary's barely moving, house prices have barely dropped, etc., etc. And don't be shocked. And you're living in crappy rented accommodation somewhere. I don't sit there and think that socialism is the answer, but I think that people need to get a better argument than simply these people are stupid. No, just to a lot greater or lesser extent, a lot of people are making a very rational piece of analysis that simply says, this system has failed me, maybe that's better. Now, I think that it's probably a lot worse, but this is pretty dire for a lot of people. To use that, coin that classic thing, like that people like to say is, it's not really much fun being in a capitalist system if you cannot accrue any capital. And for a huge portion of the population, not just the young, but very, very much the young in a lot of ways, they cannot accrue any capital. They cannot accrue. You can't even buy a house. And that's the major way that people accrue capital. Most of these people are in insecure jobs, so they're not getting any pensions or 401ks as they have in America. You're coming out. If you're a young person now, you're coming out and you're competing against AI. Look what's happened to the graduate market. The graduate market's collapsing. So don't be shocked at these young people who are just turning around and going, I got nothing to lose. He's talking about what's it called? Not no rent fixes and stuff like that. Again, I think it's largely nonsense. But if you're a young person and you go and someone says, "Oh, you'll hurt the rich or you'll break the system," you're going, why not? I got nothing to lose here, and that's the truth of the matter. I think that and you get. So as I glanced down some notes, you get always this kind of sneeringness, and you get this from all sides, but it really annoys me, particularly with older people, where they say things like, oh, when I was your age, I did X, Y, Z. And I get this. I'm 45, and I've erupted in my mother's face over it once or twice before. It was like, yeah, when you were my age, when my mum's 83 now, houses were about £2,000 to buy. You could live relatively comfortably on a single income. You had final salary pensions and all that kind of stuff for fee that was available in your workplace. The state was able to provide you huge amounts, and your job security was high. Because that's the other thing. Again, and this isn't just affecting young people my age at 45. I speak to all my friends who are saying the same thing. I don't know if I'm going to have a job in 2 years' time. There's no job security. There is no security. So again, you're driving people out of the system because the system, this version of capitalism, this mutant, awful, completely shafted version of capitalism is not providing what people need to have reasonable lives. And under all of that is, for a lot of people, particularly at the very, very bottom end, it is breeding an increasing sense of rage. How many, I see this on Twitter quite often. It's like, well, people could just have one less coffee a day. And you sit there and go, okay, well, if you work that, let's say it's £5 of coffee per day you're having. So that's 25 quid a week. So call that, let's make it make it easy. It won't be anywhere near that, but say 120 quid a month. So if I saved all that money up, I might save £1,400 a month, a year or something. House prices moved by 5% in last year, up or down or something like that. It's like, well, what difference does it make? It breeds narcissism and a nihilism in you. You just kind of go, well, there is no future, so why am I worrying about it? But also, if this system is so great, then why is it failing me, and why is it just failing more and more people? Again, I'm not claiming that these people who are emerging, particularly on the left, have the answers. But people need to understand these people are emerging because the current political economy has failed completely and utterly most people. And the longer people live in that level of denial over how failed it is, the more the extremes will get thrown up by it. And I know it's a trope and I hate using it. The last time you saw this level of economic dysfunction and failure was the 1930s. It really, really was. And it bred the same thing of people just reaching out and going, I'll reach in any direction to give me some sort of hope. And I think that it is upon any of us who care and who genuinely look around and are worried to speak up and say how broken it is, regardless of some of us are doing better, some of us aren't. Because it's no longer good enough. It's no longer good enough for people just to kind of go, they need to work harder, or they need to, some people need to do something. This system doesn't work. It does not work on multiple levels. And if you want to stop the extremes, you've got to make that system work. And if this system cannot be made to work, then either come up with a new one, which I think is going to happen anyway, or be prepared for someone else to come up with a new one. And it may not be a version of something you, I, or a lot of other people like. That's the reality of it. We've got to try and move ahead now. I wish the people of New York luck. I think that they have made a horrible mistake. I suspect, though, it won't be half as bad as people think, because I suspect that most of it won't even, of what he wants to do, will even get implemented. However, as someone who has spent a lot of time in New York over the last 10, 15 years, I suspect that it will be another step down on a city that's never really recovered from COVID and the BLM riots. It will need to step down even further before it starts turning itself around. It will turn itself around. All things always do. But I wish them luck, because I think that he will not turn out to be the salvation they think he is. However, good luck to them at least for actually voting for change. And I mean that. It's no longer good enough for people just to sit there and moan on about the fact that things aren't good enough, and that but you can't change. Vote for change. Vote for change. It may be worse change, but then from that something new may emerge. So that's it.